Dear colleagues, we continue our working day. Now the floor is given to Ministry of Defense spokesman on ATO-related issues, Colonel Andriy Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Now the information about the events that happened in the ATO area during the last 24 hours. Yesterday, the situation sharply deteriorated in Svetlodarska Bulge. Enemy envisaged to carry out massive artillery preparation despite Minsk agreements, and after that, they planned to attack and seize two our positions near Lugansk. And this plan threatened to decrease our density of defense in Bakhmutsk region. At about 6 in the morning, the enemy started artillery and mortar shelling of ATO positions, and the fire was delivered directly from the residential quarters of the occupied towns and villages adjacent to this region. Then the infantry of the enemy started to advance. The military actions lasted for 6 hours, and the attack was stopped. And in 2 hours, the enemy brought reinforcement and made one more attempt to attack, and it was supported by massive artillery shelling. Second battle lasted for 3.5 hours. Lastly, after 5 in the evening, the enemy also started to advance with the use of additional forces. And the fire and the advance of the third wave exceeded 2 previous attacks 5 times. The enemy in the battle near Lugansk launched tons of artillery shells and 700 mines. And the ATO forces, using their geographical position, they successfully repelled the attack of the enemy, and they held their positions, and the enemy retreated to the south, and ATO forces didn't advance. Aggressive actions of the enemy in Svetlodarsk, Mironivsk, and Lugansk, it resulted in electric power lines damage and partly damaged gas pipeline. During the last 24 hours, and the result of the military actions, 5 Ukrainian servicemen were killed and 6 were wounded, 10 traumas, and also some of them were shell-shocked. These were the heaviest losses of Ukrainian forces in the last 5 months. Our hearts go out to the relatives of the servicemen who were killed. Losses of the enemy are much higher. About 50 wounded and dead occupants. And hospitals of pre-front line towns such as Gorlivka, Yanakiyeva, Vulihirsk, and Debaltseva are overcrowded with the wounded militants. Now more information about the areas. In the Lugansk area, the enemy sporadically violated ceasefire along the front line using small arms, except Troitska. There was mortar shelling recorded. All armed incidents happened during dark hours, especially after 6 p.m. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Lugansk area, there were 7 enemy shellings, including 1 with the use of heavy weapons. In the Donetsk area, except Svetlodarsk Bulge, military actions were in Avdiivka production area. There, during the second part of the day, there were 3 firing incidents that lasted on the whole during 5 hours, and near Gorlovka and the Donetsk airport it was calm. In Mariupol area the situation remains the same. In Gnutovo-Shirokino part of front line there are powerful enemy shelling with the use of heavy weapons. They use tanks, mortars and cannons. And at our positions they launched about 58 mines and 20 artillery and tank shells. And the situation is not calm, and it was not calm between 9 and 3 p.m. And at other parts of front line, the situation is much calmer. And in Mar'inka, a civilian was wounded. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Mariupol area, there were 11 enemy shelling, including 7 with the use of heavy weapons. Ukrainian Reconnaissance Service got new information about alcoholism among the militants at the front line. 3 days ago, a detachment of so-called 9th Regiment of Russian occupation forces had to be taken away from the front line because of massive drinking, but the militants disagreed with the decision of the commanders and opened fire at their colleagues who were brought to replace them. 3 militants were wounded in the result. In the 7th Brigade of the enemy, 11 drunk occupants decided to go to bring some alcohol using armored vehicle, but they lost orientation and they were on the got in the minefield. 3 militants were killed and 5 were wounded. The commanders of the brigade tries to hide this episode, and they say that these are some mythical shellings delivered by Ukrainian servicemen. Also, there is desertion among the militants. 7 occupants from so-called 7th Brigade and 8 from so-called 9th Regiment went AWOL. And yesterday, servicemen of Armed Forces of Ukraine, the defender of Donetsk airport, Taras Kolodey, returned home after 2 years of captivity. He was mobilized in August 2014 and was captured in 2015. And yesterday, near Pokrovsk, law enforcers seized illegal weapons, and in the course of check, the police officers confiscated 2 hand grenades, about 150 cartridges to Kalashnikov gun, and also machine gun of domestic make. And this man explained that he found all this ammunition at the front line area near Mar'inka and decided to hold this. SBU also confiscated 2 caches of ammunition in the ATO region. These were in Pokrovsk region of Donetsk Oblast and Popasnyansk region of Lugansk Oblast. There, they confiscated 1.5 kilograms of plastide, 36 TNT blocks, and 3 grenades, and 1,500 cartridges of different caliber. Ukrainian forces also had some celebrations on the St. Nicholas Day for children of frontline areas. The military invited some children from orphanages, and in Svatovo town of Lugansk Oblast, they organized a concert for children and provided some sweets for children. And this was a great celebration for kids who, despite war, still believe in wonders. This is all information for today. If you have some questions, please ask. If there are no, thank you. This is the end of press briefing. Dear colleagues, our next event is at 1 p.m.